Welcome back to the LEC for Rogue versus Schalke 04. We are joined by Mad Lions coach Mac for his take on our top team. Now, Mac, I really want to talk about today's game, today's loss for Mad Lions, but I think I'll do that during PGL later today. I want to focus on the game at hand and start with Rogue. This is a team where their journey has been one of constant growth. The organization has proven consistent development for several seasons in a row. And I wanted to ask your take, Mac. What do you think of Rogue, their development, and now potentially becoming a contender at the top of the table?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that they should be viewed as a contender. I think that consistency really is the word when it comes to Rogue. I think in terms of their growth and also their gameplay style, they're incredibly consistent. They really play League of Legends really well, kind of by the book. And I think that their kind of roster building style and their kind of off-season planning has also been really good and really consistent. Like, I think, for example, the signing of Odo this year, it was a player that fits in like so well with their existing team identity, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for that.
One of the things that I think has impressed me specifically is their wins and their play has been very reliable. You can bank on it. If you take a look at some of the stats and some of the performance that Rogue has been able to put up, it's not always the flashiest, right? But first tower in 90% of their games, average gold lead plus 1.8k. I mean, look, the team has only lost 2 games, so obviously all of them are going to be very favorable. But Vedius, what's your take on Rogue's playstyle and their performance this year?
It's funny because we used to call them Origin Light, right? Where they had this style of like, yeah, okay, they were clean, they were very macro focused, but their mid game kind of slowed down. They're nothing like that now. They have pristine League of Legends, which is also very fast and efficient. And I think efficient is the best word I can use to describe them because they seem to not let anything go by. I think even last week, Larssen on Azir was sitting at like 450 CS at like 30 minutes. Like they know how to play the game extremely well. And I mean, I don't know outside of G2 how you really beat them. Like that's the crazy thing because I don't even know, like maybe Matt can give us more perspective on this because how do you even prep for a team that seems to just play, as he rightly described, by the book?
I don't think there's necessarily anything special that goes into prepping against a team with that individual style. Obviously, Rogue, like all players have their own kind of individualities, and that's just something that you need to be aware of. When it comes to how we would prep against them, it's more just about considering, okay, where do we think that we're stronger, and what crutches do we think that they have as a team, and what crutches do we have as a team, right? And how can we limit the impact of those crutches on the game through draft and through the style that we decide to play, right? But yeah, I think they're not an easy team to prepare for, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. And it'll be interesting to see how they develop further again. I think earlier today, the Shoutcasters were saying that Rogue in summer last year, they impressed during the regular season, but ultimately disappointed in playoffs. Now, playoffs is getting very interesting. Let's turn our attention to Schalke. With a couple of losses from teams around them, Schalke themselves are on a 4-game losing streak. And Mac, I've got a question for you, because when we look at Schalke and we look at the miracle run from last year and we look at their performance now in spring, it feels like they're a little bit of a one-trick pony, one-dimensional team. They have one style of play, and it was picked up and counted much earlier this year than last year. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's fair. I think if you look back at their last 5, 6, 7 drafts, they've all been incredibly similar in the nature in terms of the style that they want to play, and even some of the specific champions that they go back to kind of over and over and over again, and some of the combos. I think, for example, on last patch, people didn't realize that Caedrel was so strong, and they got away with getting Caedrel almost for free in so many of their drafts that it made this like massive power imbalance in the draft, and that worked really well for them. To Schalke's credit, I think they're very often ahead of the meta, and I think that their drafts are usually very solid, and they draft in a way which exacerbates and emphasizes all of their own strengths, right? So that's great, but yeah, for sure, people have figured them out a little bit in the last few weeks.
Vedius, what do you think about their high highs and their low lows? Because Gilius and the rest of the Schalke members, but Gilius in particular, manages to find these steals, these magical moments that means you still have to respect them, right? Even though theoretically and on paper here, Rogue are much better in so many ways, Schalke can just find one crazy moment.
Yeah, I will say that I think that one of the things I've enjoyed about Schalke is they won't just roll over and die. I think that even if they are one-dimensional, that's kind of a phrase that I've used to describe them. I think that they will still try whatever they can to win the game. And I think a lot of that comes from Gilius. Of course, I don't know exactly how their comms work, but when you look at some of the plays that happen and when their backs are really against the wall, you know that they're willing to try things. And I think back to the last time they played against Rogue, that after Hansama flashed over the wall, they knew that he didn't have flash in mid lane. There were 3 of them in mid, and Gilius just tower dives, right? And the whole team follows him.
Yeah.
They get those kills, and they immediately convert it into Baron, and all of a sudden, they're in control of the game. Now, of course, there are many more layers outside of just that play to how Schalke were able to pick up that win in that game, but it's plays like that that I think always make Schalke interesting to watch, and you can't always count them out even when they end up getting put in these deaths.
Definitely not consistent. You know, in the impact, you always know that something surprising will happen in the game. That is for sure. Just a quick update: we are having a very brief delay getting into Champion Select, but we'll keep you updated as soon as the draft is ready, and we'll throw it over to the casters. I'm going to turn to Mac and now ask for your predictions. When you look at a game like Rogue versus Schalke, who do you think obviously has the edge, and how will they pick up the win?
My guess would be... Wait, who's blue side?
I'm going to assume Rogue. Can I get... Yes, it's Rogue blue side, Schalke red.
Okay. So I think that Rogue is a team that has really strong prep. And I think unless Schalke has managed to kind of diversify a bit, then Rogue will probably ban them out really effectively in the first round, being on blue. Blue tends to get more target bans on the current patch, I think. And that being the case, I would imagine that Rogue will kind of strangle them out of the game. So that would be my prediction, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's a very fair prediction. I am still very interested in the mid lane matchup, though, because I think that Larssen, to me, has been very impressive this whole split. And I think that for some reason, I just think it's going to be Azir versus Zoe. So you got Abbedagge Zoe versus Larssen's Azir. Maybe he won't get it. I don't know. But I think it's always a fun, interesting matchup to watch. But I do think that right now, the game favors very much Rogue. I think that the mid jungle is incredibly strong in Larssen and Inspired. And as long as Hansama doesn't get too aggro, I think that the consistency from Rogue is just too hard to predict against.
If you were to make some predictions, Vedius, that we could follow up on the post-game, which we are planning for this game, we've already talked a little bit about, you know, Hansama, his decision-making. We talked about the mid-lane matchup. But let's turn the attention to Schalke. If they were to pick up the win, if they were to upset Rogue here today, I assume Gilius has to be involved in some way.
What? Yes. I would say that your probably best chance of winning is to stick to a style that I think that they have leveraged, which is primarily playing through topside. I think Broken Blade is very good, and I think that he's proven when he has the resources to do so, he can 1v9 a game. The question is, can you get it against Odoamne? Because, like, the king of weak side, right? Like, he knows how to tank a gank or two. So I guess, like, the responsibility falls on Gilius to try and find ways in which he can get Broken Blade ahead. It wouldn't surprise me if they were able to do that. Then they could steal a win away from Rogue, yeah.
I want to turn to Mac, actually, because Vedia said something which I absolutely love. Crowned Odoamne the weak side king, if that was correct. What's your take on that? You know, when you look at somebody like Odoamne, his play, somebody who's been around for such a long time.
I think he's having an incredible split, actually. Obviously, I've been on a team with Odo before, and I think his level of play this split has been actually one of the best that I've seen him in the league, which has been incredible for a player that's been around for so long. So full respect to him. And yeah, he's pretty good at weak side. I think his wave management is excellent. Currently in Europe, whenever we play against teams in scrims or on stage, Odo's usually the one whose wave management strikes me as being kind of S tier in the region. Like, he's definitely at the top right now, and that makes it quite hard for the kind of specific conditions required, because I do agree with Vedius that I think Broken Blade's also had some really amazing performances. I think he's a super strong laner. I think he's smart about the game. I think he talks a lot. And all of those are great, but yeah. I think that Odo is really hard to snowball on.
Thank you very much. I just got an update from production that we're currently doing the draft off air. We will get it up on your screen as soon as is possible. Remember, we do have that delay for competitive integrity reasons. I am going to ask now, Mac, the same question here. You know, how does Schalke win this game? And then I'll start moving over to maybe a little bit more like patch and meta and champion discussions. But let's go with Schalke. How do they win?
Schalke needs to explode the game somehow. And that's it's pretty hard to predict that that's going to come from someone other than Gilius, although I think Limit's had some really good moments on engaged champions as well. So if that can happen, then maybe one way of doing it is through top lane, but that's kind of hard for me to see, given how well Odo is playing right now. So I'm honestly not sure, but they need to find a way of exploding the game, and one thing is for sure is it's probably going to come from Gilius.
One thing I will say is that Mac made a really interesting point earlier, which is that Schalke have this habit of being ahead of the meta. And I do wonder if with these small changes, they will actually just bring something completely different out. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Jinx again in the bot lane for Neon. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a Jarvan for Gilius, which isn't new, but maybe he actually has something new that can just be a very gank-focused jungler to try and create this explosive playstyle. Because I think that the risk you run of playing like a standard scaling teamfight comp against Rogue is you know that that is their bread and butter, and if you try to play standard, I think we can all agree that they're just going to be better than most teams at that style. So I very much agree with Mac's perspective of just do something to like break the mold, like tear a page out of the book, perhaps, you know, don't allow them to get to the next chapter and create situations that are not conventional, which you could argue is Gilius' specialty. But I do wonder about this meta pick. And like, I'm not going to ask Mac to tell us about the secret OP champions that may exist on this patch, but perhaps Gilius has one. Perhaps there are a few picks that exist for Schalke that they can take advantage of.
What I think I will be able to ask Mac, and he's a intelligent man at dodging and revealing too much information if he doesn't want to, how much has changed off air? How much is different in scrims on the current patch? Because our expectation and what we've seen from today, it's not drastically different, right?
I wouldn't say it's drastically different, no. There are certainly a few new picks that people have been like, hang on a minute, that's been strong for a couple of weeks and no one's been playing it, which you'll start to see more of, I think, over this weekend. Picks from other regions, for example, that have had a lot more presence there. I think people are starting to pick up on why these picks have presence in other regions. Obviously, they're not playing on the same patch yet, but there's been some movement. Aside from that, I think the power balance of kind of which side is stronger in the draft has also changed, which like I think last split it was a lot more like last patch it was a lot more even. This patch I think that most teams are picking blue side, so it feels a bit hard for red side to actually get like a really hard winning draft right now.
Interesting. I definitely want to dive deeper onto that one a little later. I believe that the draft is just about ready. Schalke are known as the King Slayers, and they need to live up to that name if they want to take down Rogue.
Working on the weekend like usual. We're out in the deep end like usual. I'm Drakos, this is Caedrel. And honestly, we're turned up. We're ready. This is Rogue versus Schalke. This game is about to slap. I am so ready for maybe some new hype picks. You heard it, Vedius. Ooh, the deep, secret, dark technology. What is Gilius going to bring to the table? I hope it's something that ganks a lot, something that's super explosive, because when Gilius is making plays, Schalke are usually winning games.
Yeah, Schalke definitely needs to start winning games. They're on a 4-game losing streak, and the race for playoffs is on, especially now that SK took down XL earlier today, I believe it was, and then they're just kind of, the race is going on, and I think that Schalke needs to start getting involved and starting to climb up the ranks. SK in 3rd place, XL dropping down a bit, it's all up in the air, I think.
Yeah, it's obviously a very highly contested playoff race. We saw Misfits win earlier in the day, SK taking down Mad Lion. I mean, it's all over the place, Caedrel. And I think it's fair to call out. All of these games matter. We're not quite week 8 yet, so I won't hit you with the every game counts, but these games do matter, and it certainly matters when you're fighting for 2 teams that we expect to be in playoffs contention. So how about we get into it? It's time for a bit of picks and bans. All right, Caedrel, here we go. You heard it from the desk. If it comes down to scaling versus scaling, Rogue feel like the heavy favorites, and already we're seeing the Skarner band away. What do you have your eyes on?
Just OPs in general. I think the way that the meta is developing, I think you can see 2 different playstyles. You've seen it all throughout the day. The SK Mad Lions game, like you said, SK going full scaling, full team fight, Mad Lions playing full early game, full for aggression. And then again, you saw it again with the G2 game, just last game, going for this full early game, get ahead and snowball the lanes, make a mistake, you might lose the game. And other teams are just playing to hold on, essentially. So there's 2 different types of styles I'm seeing as the meta evolves. And then the OPs, I think obviously, like Max said, red side does struggle a little bit more because blue side's in target ban. But it's interesting to see that Rogue have actually banned away the Azir from Abbedagge, which is Larssen's kind of favorite champion, I would say.
Yeah, overall, I'm not going to lie, we have a graphic prepared. He has a 5.7 KDA over like almost 30 games. The man is disgusting on Azir. So surprised to see, as you mentioned, Rogue take away from themselves. Now the Caitlyn coming out. Important to note, over the last few patches, Caitlyn has been chained buff, mostly in terms of small stats like attack speed or attack damage scaling per level or base AD in a few patches past. But we still have not seen her pretty much at all in pro play.
Yeah, Caitlyn definitely got a lot of buffs. No one else has really been touching her too much today. I think Caitlyn is one of those laners where you need to snowball the lane, get a CS lead, get some towers, and as much as I dislike range supports, Caitlyn is the 180 carry that needs them. She needs things like the Karma, the Morgana, the Janna, things like this. Even the Lux is super OP with Caitlyn, which we saw into the Zyra meta around a year ago. So the Senna being picked up for Schalke, which is also one of the strongest ADs we've got in the game. Now I'm curious to see if they want to go for the Tahm Kench, because picking Senna Tahm into Caitlyn sounds a bit unlaneable. They're going to go for the Gragas for now, just to get a little bit more information. But this Caitlyn will be definitely something to keep our eye on.
And similarly, have to watch where the Gragas is going to go. Is this going to be just a top lane blind pick for Broken Blade? Do we have a return of the jungle Gragas for Gilius? Is kind of the playmaker that maybe we would want to see him on, but hard to say how powerful it is. Could also technically go to the support position. We haven't seen a ton of support Gragases, but we know it is still overall a pretty strong pick.
Yeah, Gragas support does work.
Oh, Twisted Fate.
That is TF locked in for Larssen. Now, that's a lot of playmaking, which is definitely what you need if you have this pushing bot lane in, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them pick up that jungler as well. Graves, TF, super strong mid-jungle combo. Although it doesn't have the biggest burst in the game, the setup that they have is just unreal. You know, you get TF pushing in, can roam to sides, the setup with the stun, the Graves can put the smoke screen, you can just get someone's flash instantly. So I really like this draft from Rogue so far. I'm just curious to see what range support they go for, because they need some kind of range support to start pushing in the Senna. And if it is a Gragas bot, I suppose the Gragas bot does help the Senna in a way that he can actually wave clear that lane and just queue the waves, try and keep the waves away from their tower. But it's not going to be the strongest contest as Abbedagge goes for an aggressive pick into the Twisted Fate, the Tristana. Now, with the Tristana is something that's super good into the TF, similar to Lucian, 80 carries in mid, win the all-ins, early levels, and they can start pushing in lanes and getting playthings.
And look, we played against a Halo Blades Tristana earlier today. If he does offer Halo Blades, she does a lot of damage. She resets the jump super easy. I'm not going to say that I died a million. I died a lot
a million times.
Yeah, it was brutal. Larssen, obviously a much better player, so we'll see how he matches this matchup, but maybe not even a cleanse needed if you can just input buffer the gold card.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this matchup is TF has to leave the lane essentially just so he can make the plays around the map. Now the reason that Tristana is good is, first of all, you win 1v1, but second of all, when the TF does go to side lanes, you're going to one-shot this mid tower. Demolish Tristana with the E on the tower, just kind of taking it down every now and then, getting playthings as well. So as TF roams around the map, Abbedagge can get those tower playthings. So need to see what kind of range spot Rogue's looking at here. The Nara's banned away. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Morgana banned too, because I think that's going to be a really big problem for Schalke if they pick this Senna. There isn't really any melee support you can pick that is good into Morgana in a way. So have to see how the draft evolves.
And have to keep our eyes on it as well for the side of Rogue. Now, in past weeks, we were very critical of them for drafting compositions that might be a little bit too difficult to play. Well, they're certainly set up for playing across the map, using globals, leveraging the power of the TF. And if they do get something like a Morgana Caitlyn, which will no longer be possible thanks to a shrewd ban from Schalke, they would have a very powerful but very vulnerable composition.
Yeah, think of the amount of CC, right? You get hit by a binding into a TF stun, Caitlyn trap, smoke screen. You essentially really can't move. So I really like that ban away from Schalke. So the Gragas is still technically a triple flex in a way, like you said, top jungle support. I think Schalke needs to pick their jungler on 4 or something to reveal it. That's the problem with the triple flex on red side. Obviously, when it gets to 4, you have to reveal where it's going. So the GP ban, just making sure that they take that away. Now, GP is actually good into TF in the way that you can't really ult top too much because he has the orange to get out of it. Even though it's quite a squishy target for him to kill, the global itself is just annoying to deal with. So I really like that takeaway, especially when you're playing Caitlyn, pushing in towers. GP ult could be a bit annoying. So Schalke's going to have to give away where this Gragas is going a little bit with their next pick.
Yeah, GP historically the bane of immobile 80 carries, and why 90 caliber net is a solid movement utility ability. It's not nearly as good as an Ezreal dash or a Tristana jump. Renekton is now going to be the lock-in here. That's triple AD threats from the side of Schalke. No fear. If Rogue get a tank here, it could be very strong, but with so many squishy members, it is still going to be hard to itemize armor.
Yeah, I like the early rotation Gragas. Denies the Gragas into Renekton pick for Rogue, so we'll have to see what they opt into. But the thing is with Schalke's comp, I think Gragas isn't that AP carry like a Lilia, like a Nidalee that fits into this top side jungle for the top side of Schalke for the early game, for the AP damage in the mid to late game. So I need to see them pick up more AP damage. I think this Gragas should go towards the bot side of the map as Rogue respond with an Aatrox, which makes a lot of sense. Going for a tank top doesn't make too much sense when you want to play on the sides with TF. You could argue you could play like a 1-4 comp with a tank and TF just focus on bot side, but having more win conditions helps, and if Aatrox gets ahead, it's going to be really difficult for Tristana to fight.
Yeah, we've seen over the past weeks how quickly Aatrox has risen in popularity across the entire league, how powerful this champion can be, especially mid-late game when he's set up, and that's the Lux support. Now, I feel like the last time we saw Lux support was when it was the cheesy double support item bot lane combos, but Interesting to see it now here, see how Trymbi can pilot this one. He's been very good at the engaged champions. Have to see if he can take some of the engaged tendencies away to play a more reserved champion like the Lux.
I guess that's the only real problem Rogue's comp has. They don't really have any engage. Yes, they have winning sides if they can get them ahead, and yes, they'll always have mid-prio with this Caitlyn Lux, which obviously like binding into trap will do a lot of damage. They don't have too much engage, whereas Schalke have the Renekton, they have the Gragas, they have some forms of engage, but they are going to round it out with a Nidalee, which I like a lot. They needed a lot of AP damage, and I don't think a support champ could have facilitated that. So the Gragas is going bot. It should provide a lot of wave clear for Schalke's bot lane, but I'm looking at the bot side of the map here for both teams.
I think it's totally fair, especially when you have something as explosive as the Caitlyn Lux, but I do want to draw our attention back to Gilius briefly, because this is a guy who we've been talking about needs to play playmakers. The last time we saw the Nidalee, admittedly the composition wasn't as good as this one, but it was a struggle for Schalke and for Gilius in the early game, so I think we need to see a stronger performance from him today.
Yeah, definitely. He did get a small lead in that game against SK. It was Tinks on the Skarner who couldn't press his R for a while, but eventually he did. They lost the fights, and Schalke kind of dropped the ball with their lead. We need to see them get that lead, snowball it into a favorable position for them, keep the map control, and just snowball the game.
Absolutely do, but it is now time for Schalke No Fear versus Rogue. Let's find out who comes out on top.
Fun fact, Drakos, Larssen's TF in spring of 2021 is 2-0, 2 wins, 0 losses, and has a KDA of 27.
That's nasty.
That is nasty.
This graphic might be predicting something. Vote for your MVP. Could be Larssen if he lives up to that performance. His game versus Fnatic at the start of the season, which might be what most people remember from this TF. Before it was permabanned for what feels like week after week after week until this match today. 6-0-13, highest DPM in any game he's played. The Azir games, he's not even putting out as much damage as he did in that TF game. So if he has a pop-off performance, Larssen is not a man to be trifled with, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, TF kind of was really, really OP at the start of the split, because I think globals generally, or scaling is always really strong at the start of splits, because it helps you close out games and it helps you kind of do your win conditions easier, you know, execute the win conditions a lot easier. I think TF kind of fell off a little bit, you could argue, because the rise of Azir, Orianna, Syndra, Victor, these kind of lanes that push TF in. But Larsen's bringing it back. It went to the draft, and we'll have to see how he uses it, because he's got two very volatile side lanes.
Ooh. And here's the big question for me, Caedrel, is just inevitably, the junglers are going to do what they're going to do. And maybe with the Renekton, you know, Nidalee combo, we see some action early on the top side. Gilius has opted to start on that red, or rather on the Krugs, into the red. Rather, red into the Krugs, sorry.
Very, very, very minor thing that happened there. Odoamne went to ward the topside river. Now, I wonder if that gave Schalke information to think that Odoamne actually leased. I'm not sure if he was fake leashing there, or just delaying his... showing himself on the lane on purpose in a way. But maybe Schalke think that Inspired started towards the top side, because he did start on red buff, and you would expect him to path into this Caitlyn's Lux lane, but he's actually doing his bot side camp. So is he going to look to split the map on bot side, or is he just going to clear away from his Caitlyn Lux and just help out Odoamne on this Aatrox Renekton matchup?
For now, Odoamne is struggling. You can see falling down in CS. Renekton with the early lane priority here. Level advantage for Broken Blade, making good use of the brief window of time where he has level 2 over Odo. Deathbringer stance is back up, so a bit more healing for Odo if Broken Blade overextends in the trade, but with only Q available, level 1, Aatrox can be really strong, but if you're not hitting every single one, you're probably going to lose out here.
Yeah, Broken Blade gets the top push early because of the matchup, so he's going to ward the blue, so they'll get full information as to where Inspired is. Blue buff's up. They'll see him on the ward soon as well, starting up his blue buff. So Schalke know where Inspired is, but Rogue don't really know where Gilius is. I guess they can presume he is pathing bot because of the lane state in bot side, but Rogue's bot lane needs to play self-sufficient unless Inspired wants to base and head down towards the bot side later on.
Yeah, let's have a conversation a little bit more about this bottom lane, Caedrel, because I think it is a very unique matchup. It feels like overall, the Lux, a pick that we haven't seen in a long time. But one of the things you brought up about the Gragas that we have seen be somewhat effective is Limit's ability to get a few CS here and there just with the power of that cast level 1, just with a bit more wave clear than, let's say, your average supporter. In this case, carry, as he is going to be farming. But still, Hansama and Trymbi are absolutely dominating right now.
Yeah, they're going to have full control of this lane. Limit is essentially the one that needs to farm, but he's a melee champ into Caitlyn Lux. So every time he steps up for a creep, he's going to get chunked out more and more and more. Yes, he is playing with the TP, but if you look on the items here, he's already lost his potion. He is sitting at full HP, but he's gonna hate his life in this bot side, Drakos. He can't really CS at all. And Gilius is going to go towards the bot grab. Interestingly, both Schalke's mid and top are going for the top grab. Gilius is running bot here. Limit has the E-flash if he wants to engage it.
Good flash from Trymbi to dodge the spear, last possible second. They are going to be forced to retreat, but this is, of course, the risk of running the range supports. They're very vulnerable. If they get ganked, if they get collapsed on, if they fall behind, they go from
dominant, incredibly powerful, to completely and totally useless. So Trymbi and Hansama do have to be careful here.
Yeah, Trymbi no flash, and Limit can always TP back to the lane to get his HP back up. Yes, they will fall behind in creeps, and yes, Rogue should get a gold lead in the spot side, but if they fall behind, then Gilius can find some kind of ganking angle, especially with this amount of solo lane priority they have. I mean, they just took a topside crab, they have double TP up as well. Larssen had to TP back to mid already. And Abbedagge has got a 10 CS lead, so these lanes are actually going in favor of Schalke by the looks of it. And Inspired lost both crabs. He is a little bit behind on jungle clear. You can see he's doing his Raptor respawn when Gilius has already done a full clear in base. So in terms of tempo, in terms of where people are on the map, Abbedagge saving the TP. Schalke actually have a lot of hidden resources here that you might not actually spot. Odoamne TPing back top. Rogue don't really have any resources to go bot side now.
And I think this is the kind of early game we wanted to see last week with the composition that they had up versus SK, even when Tanks wasn't very active. Gilius seems to be playing much better this time around. You've got individual lanes winning out much more. And overall, Gilius is a very interesting player because when he's sacrificing for the team, it feels like Schalke is always doing better, that he individually is doing better. You can see in their wins, he's always hugely impactful on the map. That's the K+A at 15, but he's very far behind himself. Now this Nidalee, he might reflect a little bit of what we've seen in the losses, where he's playing much more for himself in the losses, but it doesn't translate to that all-important W. So we need to watch this Nidalee and see exactly what Gilius is going to do to impact the map to help get these laners even further ahead.
Yeah, I think when the games weren't going in his favor and the plays weren't happening, he was just farming up more. That's why you see his CS numbers higher in the losses in a way. But I think the fall-off of the Pantheon Olaf meta kind of hurt him in a way where he can't actually pick those playmakers. But going back to this game in particular, I think the key thing I want to highlight, which I just mentioned earlier, is Schalke have saved both their solo lanes TPs while also winning the lane. So Abbedagge and Broken Blade still have TP up. They both based.
Spear.
Larssen has no flash either now, so Schalke have full control of the topside map, which means that Hans and Trymbi really can't punish this bot lane as much as they'd want to. They don't have any resources to help them out. There's some sort of all in on top here. Broken Blade does trade onto Odoamne, and we'll have to see how these solo lanes progress, because I'm not sure if Rogue's bot lane can snowball the game with so little priority around the map.
And hopefully for Schalke, Broken Blade can continue to keep up this advantage.
They're moving towards top side here, Drakos. There is a top wave. Larssen is level 6.
And this is massive. By shoving the TF under his tower, they've effectively made his ult completely useless. So level 6 that would normally be such a strong point. But Gilius potentially overextending. Good roam from Trymbi. But a quick pounce out to safety means Gilius will not get hit by the light binding and can walk away.
Yeah, Abbedagge has already picked up one plating here in the mid lane. Trymbi has to roam towards mid to help out Larssen on these waves. When he's playing the Caitlyn Lux, he needs the resources. So Rogue definitely on the back foot here in these laning phases. Definitely struggling, and Gilius can kind of take over the whole map now. We talked about Gilius being the proactive playmaker for his team in the wins. Now he needs to show it.
Absolutely does. Slowly building that advantage. Obviously, when we see the Gale Force coming for Inspired, that's when he expected him to be a bit more of a threat here into the mid lane, level 6 as well. The potential for a gold card to just one-shot Abbedagge. There is no cleanse on that Tristana. Yes, she can input buffer the rocket jump. It does make her relatively safe into most hard CC, but Abbedagge still has to play respectful. But for right now, Caedrel, you talked about this in the draft. You said demolish proc Tristana mid lane. If you ever leave her alone, she just eats your mid lane tower.
Yeah, that's 2 platings in the favor of Abbedagge. He still has TP advantage and he's up 20 CS, so Gilius being around here has definitely helped out the mid lane. And Schalke have so many winning lanes across the map. Broken Blade again's gone to base, saved the TP. Rogue don't have enough resources to actually help out this bot lane of Caitlyn Lux, and I think that Schalke can kind of free farm here. Look at the vision on the map as well. Look at the amount of pinks that Schalke have on the bot side river, on the top side river, inside the enemy jungle. What does Rogue see? I'm curious to see observers. Can we see Rogue's vision? I don't think they can see anything on the entire map.
No.
Schalke have full control of the river. They can start up Drakes. They can go for lane swaps on Herald as much as they want. They essentially own the whole rift.
It's a fantastic early game from Schalke, to be completely honest. Outside of bot lane, which is obviously struggling greatly, the individual gold, you have to imagine there's a pretty significant difference between both bot lanes, but overall, pretty solid. You see there, Gragas, about 600 behind the Caitlyn, who is farming, and Hansama and Trymbi just about dead even, or rather Neon and Trymbi just about dead even. So overall, Rogue's really only strong point is that their bot lane is steadily getting ahead. That said, they're not getting a whole ton of tower plates. They're not able to rotate very effectively out of this lane. So Schalke very happy with the game state as it is.
Yeah, you're completely right, Drakos. The thing is, if Rogue even tried to contest anything in river, then I think Larssen, if he ults away to side, he's going to lose his mid lane tower. It's already lost 2 plates. And he's definitely struggling in that lane as Inspire tries to start up a Herald. He doesn't have any prios. You can see Abbedagge is already moving. Trymbi's around mid too. So this could turn into a 3v3, but Trymbi will be around, so it could be a 4v3. We'll have to see how they play this fight out.
Graves level 6, 1 stack on the smite left. before he gets the transform there. But now they're just leaping in. They're trying to find Trymbi. Trymbi incredibly squishy. Gilius trying to finish the job. They are going to be able to knock him away. The rocket jump back out from Abbedagge. Abbedagge trying to retreat. The Senna coming in, but is not able to save him. Odoamne now on a collapse. This is disastrous for Schalke. Maybe if Gilius can get one more, but no, the gold card comes in. Odoamne dunks down, and that is disaster for Schalke.
That is disaster for Schalke. I think they should have just backed off there and given the Herald. Schalke's bot lane was actually able to start pushing in and hitting the bot tower. The Senna ult wasn't in time to save Abbedagge on that backside of the engage, and they lose 2 kills. The gold lead isn't still in favor of Schalke. No one got the Herald, but it looks like Inspired might want to start that up again because both summoners blown on the mid jungle of Schalke frees up a lot of space for Rogue to be able to start contesting the vision on the map.
For Odoamne, who's already starting to shift this mid or top lane matchup around, it's so good to get that additional kill. When he's finally able to back and spend that gold, maybe he'll be able to go toe-to-toe with Broken Blade. Broken Blade forced to use his ult there. And initially, when we looked at this game, we didn't expect to be talking about bottom lane Caedrel. We actually expected to be completely talking about top lane because these are 2 guys who are absolute monsters on their respective teams. And while the early game, we'll hold that thought as we take a look back at the replay, has gone well, Odoamne getting this kill has to feel so good.
Yeah, Rogue's only real winning point is the bot side, so Trymbi actually rotates up towards the top side when he gets his bot push in to help out the fight. I think Schalke kind of tunnel vision onto Trymbi too much, and they realize that it's actually a 4v3 that they're getting into. Schalke's carries went way too deep, their mid-jungle went way too deep in the jungle, so Broken Blade couldn't actually follow up and help them. And it turned into a 2v3 where Odoamne ended up getting a kill, and Broken Blade could never really join the fight. So Rogue's bot lane was their win condition, it was their winning lane, and I think they used it effectively there to shut down the Herald play.
Definitely do. And Trymbi making good use of a support that we normally expect to just sit in lane, harass you under tower in the Lux, but using it instead to roam the map, to back up where he can. Really heads-up map play from such a young player. So now we see Odoamne looking for the contest here. He's just going to get a bit of harass. Gilius will be able to take it. This is first Herald. He has 4 minutes to use it until the plates fall, so should be able to find at least 360 gold, potentially more if he's able to use it to break mid lane.
Yeah, both junglers here trading neutral objectives. Herald for Drake. I think that just naturally benefits the Herald because obviously the gold in the early game helps you get the second one. But like you were saying, Drakos, I think this top lane matchup is so important to the point where it's like Odoamne was on Schalke. He was one of the key parts of this miracle run. And now he's up against Broken Blade, who did come back from TSM. Yes, it was a bit of a shaky showing, you might argue, in a sense where he was playing super aggressively. But look at the stats, you know, his forward percentage is so high, he's still got that aggression, he's getting a lot of jungle proximity, and his CSD is basically second, almost tied with Odoamne in that first and second spot. But Odoamne is actually doing this all with the lowest jungle proximity almost. So he's doing that in a self-sufficient way, whereas Broken Blade's getting a lot of attention. We've already seen this kind of, even from the draft, this amount of strong picks they've got on this top side, the amount of setup that they've got and pushing lanes to actually facilitate this aggression.
Broken Blade now going in the trade. And Caedrel, I love that you highlight it, because it is, top laners are often the unsung heroes for their teams, and I think it has been the case for Broken Blade, because even in the loss streak that we've seen for Schalke, Broken Blade's been winning just about every single lane matchup. It's been a ton of blind pick Nars, a ton of playing on an island. It's a similar story for Odoamne. He's been the one to pick the Shen when it's necessary. He's been the one to back up the team. So 2 guys who often don't get looked at because there's just so much happening on the bottom side of the map are kind of a key focus here when we look at this matchup.
Yeah, and as we look towards the mid lane, it's almost like a 3v3. Gilius has the Herald and he wants to place it down. I think they want to take this mid lane tower, but Hans is pushing in bot. That means Limit needs to go down there and catch the wave. Yes, they keep the vision and they get the crab. As we see some trading top, Broken Blade has the ult.
Earl chains. But here comes Larssen. Now Odoamne looking for the chase down the gold card. Larssen finally able to leave the lane, and he's looking for a kill. He's trying to get some blood. No, the shield that comes back. Broken Blade, he's just alive for a brief second, but he's dead. He's burning. Larssen just barely able to kill him. The corrupting potion, just enough in the end.
I wonder if that was an ignite swap on the summoner spell that actually finished off Broken Blade with the corrupting pot, like you said. Now, what can Schalke get out of this? I think the important thing to note here is Inspired is actually ready to catch the midwave in Abbedagge's face. He wasn't involved in the play, but he involves himself in the general sense of the play, where I'll catch midwave and you will top. And let's see what Schalke can do on the cross map. Can they do something bot side? Because once you make a play top, the other side has to play safe. You can see Schalke actually start pushing in this bot matchup, which is very difficult for them. But the Herald's placed, and he will lose his mid tower for this play, like we talked about. It's so hard to roam around the map when the enemy team has the Tristana mid and the Herald on top of that.
Inspired waiting in the darkness, though, maybe hoping to catch an overextending Abbedagge, but Abbedagge will back off. And breaking that mid lane tower is huge. Normally, if you're the team with the TF and you break enemy mid lane tower, it's GG. You get to roam to the side lanes whenever you want. It's so easy. But because Schalke have broken it, it actually makes the game a lot harder for Larssen to play out.
Yeah, Broken Blade, Broken Tower for Rogue. As Larssen will get one wave of Proud because Abbedagge did go to base, has picked up the Gale Force, so he's got his 1-item spike, super strong, whereas Larssen's getting his golds from kills. Instead of platings and CS difference, he's got 2 kills. He does have a shutdown himself. He has the Everfrost as well, so he has a lot of chain CC. on these plays. Does pick up a plate as well. So now we'll have to see how Rogue want to play towards the bot side of the map. Yes, they've killed Broken Blade. He has no flash, he has no ult. But I think this bot matchup needs to start snowballing. You need to get your Caitlyn Lux out of this lane. You need to get bot tower, get them into mid and start controlling the map from there. Because if they sit in this bot side and they can never really achieve anything, it's so hard to snowball the game with the Caitlyn Lux, which is really their win condition.
Yeah, and observers, if we could take a look at the Schalke Tier 1 tower and bot lane really quick, just to see how many plates... Other side. Thank you. Good job, team. Okay, so the good news is at least almost 3 plates down for the side of Rogue. So they haven't completely, let's say, underutilized their bot side advantage, but it's definitely not the Caitlyn games that we've seen in the past where you break open one tower, rotate to another lane, break open that tower. And as Caitlyn returns to the bottom lane, it looks like Rogue are just going to continue, knowing the tower plates fall down in about 8 seconds just to stay in this bottom lane.
Yeah, that's the high tempo play of the Caitlyn Lux. You push in bot, you get the tower, you move to top like you said, but in turn in this game, they've actually had to push in bot and help their team who was struggling. Larssen's lost this mid tower and it's very difficult to put the Caitlyn Lux mid because they have no tier 1 to stand next to, you know. If they're trying to push up the wave and they get collapsed on, they don't have a tower to fall back to. So keeping them in the bot side of the map is where they need to be, as there might be an engaging bot side here. Handsoma has the flash, he might have to...
They're going out. Slow coming in for the Glacial Augment. Limit not going to overcommit on the cast, though. Doesn't have the cooldown up quite yet.
Yeah, good dodge there. And Odoamne is punishing this top matchup. Was struggling in the early game, but I think that gank's really helped him out. He might look for some kind of dive here. Broken Blade does have the ult, though.
Healing, going to go for the ultimate. Larssen immediately coming in. Odoamne still tanking the tower. Larssen going to trade off here. Broken Blade playing it as best as he can, but there's just too much damage. Rogue going to walk away clean. Larssen, just a sliver of life left, but it will be enough as Abbedagge looking for the 1v1. The shield coming in from downtown, from Neon. That's exactly what you need, but no, he gets the 2 with the snipe.
Neon got the snipe onto Larssen, I think, as he was getting away from the tower. He didn't have the flash to dodge away from it. We'll have to see the replay there, but I think Neon did manage to snipe away Larssen. So that's kind of a disaster for Rogue. They make the top play happen, yes, but Larssen gets sniped off. Inspired dies in the 1v1 to Abbedagge. And look at the bot side of the map there.
Oh, Trymbi!
Trymbi.
The flash sideways, but here comes the Caitlyn!
He almost gets it. So close to getting him down. Trymbi just about manages to live. And it does end up in a 2-for-2. And it does look like it's going to be a top 4 bot tier 1 trade. So it's even across the map.
Observers, take your time on that replay. Make it sexy for us. That's all I'll say. That was a great series of play. I want to watch that Senna ult again. I want to watch the support Lux coming in for almost a 1v1
I think Neon got a 2 birds with 1 stone there. I think he sniped Larssen while also giving Abbedagge the shield to win the 1v1 to be able to jump away. And yeah, we saw the top play initially, the Everfrost just paying off for Larssen, going towards the rapid fire. So he's playing this full supportive TF, lots of CC, lots of range, and Handsoma needs to be the carry. But the only problem for Rogue now is their split pusher of TF has no tower, and their mid lane of Caitlyn Lux has no tower, so it's so hard for them to get prio in these lanes. So you might see Schalke actually start to contest this mid wave and actually start to push them in. As we see Gilius looking towards the second Drake, should be able to pick it up, so that's 1 Drake for both teams.
Trymbi going for the cheeky steal.
No, he won't get it. Dragon win conditions quite far away for both teams. Mountain Soul.
In Caedrel, it is important to note that Tristana will continue to be very, very powerful on the sideline. The looming threat of a gold card is definitely there, but TF's waves clear much lower with this build without any more AP. That said, both teams fighting for this vision. Schalke very comfortable just moving into Rogue's territory because they've broken that mid-tier 1. They can just walk in here. Neon can walk in fearlessly. He has so much vision to back him up.
Yeah, if you don't have mid-prow, you need to use your winning side. So Odoamne is moving down here. He has the ulti, he has the flash. But I think Schalke with full summoners can get away as Larssen's popping the ghost. He gets the stun card onto Abbedagge.
Oh, the input buffer doesn't quite come through. The follow-up snare is there, but Abbedagge needs to turn it. He realizes Inspired's coming around behind him. He's going to try to punt him back. Good burning damage. Gold card comes out. He's trying to sidestep, but he just cannot. Inspired going to grab the kill, and well played by Rogue.
And we've seen this from Abbedagge quite a few times. Even last week, he was getting caught out on the side lanes with the Zoe against things like the Skarner against SK2. So the top play initially was really, really good from Rogue. I mean, the CC chain with the Everfrost was enough to take down Broken Blade, but this Senna ult went straight through Larssen, picked up the kill from the opposite side of the map.
Observers, I love you! Oh!
Takes down Larssen. I think he got the shield on Abbedagge as well to pick up the 1v2. Jumps away, but then Abbedagge did die later on in the exchange against Trymbi with the Caitlyn ult. So the map states kind of even in a way. Schalke have the mid push into against the Caitlyn Lux, which is super important, but Abbedagge getting caught out, lost a lot of tempo. TP behind.
This is going to be big. Odoamne in the area as well. He's sped up. Larssen coming in with the gold card. Limit's going to get caught out and taken down. Remember, he was the one that's farming. That's a big loss for the team overall. Neon, yes, he's got some items under his belt. Maybe they can keep this wave cleared. But for now, priority access on the Herald to Rogue. Odoamne, he's not done yet. The Infernal Chains come out, but they will not continue on to Neon. Just barely able to walk away in that one.
Yeah, Rogue starting up the Herald here, and Schalke's biggest problem now is their side laners are going to start to lose as the game progresses. I think Odoamne is a bit too far ahead. Larsen's 2 levels up on Abbedagge, who was winning the lane, getting the platings. He's actually 2 levels down, so even though he's ahead of it in CS, he was ahead in platings. He's so far down in XP from getting caught out. And Schalke trying to trade something on the bot side. Gilius looking for a red buff. Odoamne sees him on the ward. Gilius has the flash though. He might just be able to steal this and get away.
And overall, Gilius providing a lot of pressure for the team. Maybe he can get a kill here. This would be massive. Only 0, 1, and 1. Not the high-impact performance that he was looking for, but a quick sidestep, a spear to follow. The ult coming down to provide both shields, but Odoamne is still going to walk away. Neon here for backup if they need it, but Rogue just happy to not really give up a whole ton for that play overall. Just the flash from Odoamne.
Yeah, Schalke don't get anything on the cross map. They just lose the Herald. They did get Odoamne's flash, but I guess that's fine overall. But I think on the side lane, look at the gold difference between the top laners, especially. I mean, there's such a big gold deficit for Broken Blade on the side lane. Larssen is only 100 gold up, but he's a level up and he can start pushing in these sides. And Rogue have regained the push in mid, which is so important when you want to contest vision. Now look at Rogue. They're doing exactly what Schalke was doing 2 or 3 minutes ago. They're contesting the entrance red, pushing in, getting deep vision, and that allows your side laners to push. So if you get the mid push, your sides can start to push, and then you can start controlling these neutral objectives a lot easier. And that's really, really important when Drake's spawning in 2 minutes.
See if the gold card will connect.
Rapid fire
cannon. Definitely strong, especially when you have the follow-up snare as well, if you hit someone a little bit closer to you, but Rogue gonna back away. And important to remember, Caedrel, when this game started, outside of bot lane, Schalke were dominating everywhere across the map, winning individual 1v1s left and right. Now, to be fair, kind of as expected with Tristana and Renekton, but as we've gotten to the mid-game, after that one mistake around the blue, see where the TF wants to go.
He's just getting information here for his team. Not sure what the play was there. But you're completely right. Schalke was stomping the lanes across the board. You could expect it from the draft, but I think they just made too many individual mistakes by over-chasing into enemies. Abbedagge over-chasing in the 1v1 into Trymbi, over-chasing the jungle, and now getting caught on the sides. And now Schalke just keep trying to poke and prod at this bot side. They're trying to make a play onto Odoamne. This is the second time they've looked for it, but they don't have enough CC to shut him down because Broken Blade is on the side lane against Larssen. And if you do bring down a limit, I do think you have some engage, but you might lose your mid tower with this kind of play. But Hans doesn't decide to go mid. He's moving towards bot. This could be bad for Schalke if they stay around too long.
Schalke very committing super heavily to this play. Broken Blade now going to be in trouble. That's the snare from the stun. Inspired with the follow-up burst damage. Broken Blade trying to hurt. Stridebreaker trying to take him out to safety, but he's just getting cut down left and right.
Yeah, that's the problem with the cross map. All of Schalke was bot. I think Broken Blade stepped up way too far to contest that wave. Yes, he had the flash, but I think that Inspired could just flash after him with the auto attack. He could have ulted him anyway, so Broken Blade just saving the flash because he knows in 40 seconds Dragon spawning, maybe his flash can impact the fight when Hans doesn't have it. So Broken Blade smartly deciding not to flash there, but the problem is getting caught out like that is slightly illegal, I must say.
It's been a while since I've heard you say that. It must have been really illegal for you to bring it up.
That was really illegal.
And I think what sucks here for Broken Blade is it feels like he's been free to sit in a solo lane for most of the past few games for Schalke. He has always just been the guy who's building CS advantages. He's sometimes been able to leverage that in fights, sometimes not. But this game, he's getting absolutely bullied. He's getting absolutely picked on. He has been dived repeatedly. It's like Larssen picked him out and said, all right, you're the one who's going down. He's gone top 3 times now, 3 kills, 0-3 for the Renekton. This is not the game that Broken Blade wanted to have.
The interesting thing, you have to see how Rogue adapt and kind of dissect the game. Their win condition was bot, but we can't play into bot because we don't have TPs, so Trymbi will go mid to bail out Larssen, and they'll use their bot power to help Larssen survive the lane phase, and then Larssen will help Odoamne. So it's a transition of the win condition from bot to using their bot to be the resource to help you instead. So instead of Larssen and Odoamne helping the bot helps them, and then they snowball the side lanes. So now Rogue have winning side lanes, and Handsome and Trymbi just didn't make mistakes. They've got to this mid game, they've got 2 dragons under their belt, and they're keeping this mid push. So Rogue are in a really good spot. Schalke need to find some kind of way to kind of catch out Larssen perhaps and stop the plays from happening, because Rogue can always pull the trigger first on the side lanes with the TF ultimate.
Yeah, Rogue certainly have the advantage. They can start the plays on their terms. Maybe Schalke can find room to punish, but it's difficult with the TF ult there to spot every single person out, regardless of how good your vision control otherwise would be, regardless of what Rogue could normally see. That ult just cheats so much in favor of you when you have a lead like this.
Yeah, Abbedagge does push out, does decide the base, and now I think the key way Schalke could unlock this game is if they put Tristana behind the Renekton and try to catch the TF out on the side lane. That could be one of the plays that they could look for. 4 minutes on the Dragon. Nash is up, so I'm expecting both teams to try and control the top side of the map. Odoamne will push in his bot side with the TP, but look what Larssen is doing. He's doing the exact same. He thinks Abbedagge is doing what he should do. He should shadow Broken Blade. Larssen's hovering around mid with his ultimate, so if they ever try to pull this trigger on the bot side with this 2v1 play onto Odoamne, he can respond to TF ult. Hans
caught out, perfect combo coming in from Limit, and Hansama instantly just one shot. TF ult is here. Limit now going to be caught as well. Flash forward from Trymbi. He's ready to get things ticked off, but Broken Blade, maybe he can find a way into the backline. He needs to back off for now, though. Inspired and Odoamne chasing him down. Abbedagge, Gale Force back out to safety. Broken Blade healing up a little bit, but that healing is massive from Odoamne. Gilius on the way in, provides a bit of a heal for Neon, but Schalke need to back off. They don't really have a tanky front line. Both the Gragas is gone. Renekton has to back off. Gilius playing with fire here to step forward. Larssen could move around, but Inspired looks like he's just called his mid laner off. knows that he's fine to walk away in this one.
2 for 1 for Schalke. I think that proactivity from Abbedagge was so good. We thought he'd go bot to Shadow Broken Blade, but he goes mid instead. Limit catches out Hans, who steps up too far, and Trymbi trades his life for Limit. So 2 for 1 for Schalke. The fights are so close, but you can see how much of a monster Odoamne is in those fights. You see he just stepped up into 3 people and was healing through that damage. So that's going to be a really big problem for them as the game progresses. But a 2 for 1 for Schalke doesn't net them an objective. When you get these kills, you want to get something. I think they got some tempo on the map. You can see they're coming out of base first, and they have full vision towards the top side. But Odoamne is still keeping his bot push, and he still wins 1v1 against Broken Blade, who is so far behind in the mid game. Especially on a champion like Renekton, it means you really struggle.
Good movement, though. Broken Blade's dodged literally everything in this 1v1. Has also now knocked Odoamne back. The back limits on the way. I think Odoamne is overstayed. They're forced to use the TP now to respond. Rogue are doubling down on the play. Trymbi over the wall. Odoamne going to try to make it out to safety, but not the best cask. Stun card now comes out. Odoamne going to follow up. That's 1, 2, 3 on the Broken Blade, but Abbedagge on the bottom side going to go for the 1v1 on Larssen. It's a messy, chaotic fight. For now, Schalke need to back off. Hansama starting the ultimate. Gilius, he's nowhere near his team. Neon can throw out the ult to protect Broken Blade, but they're just getting absolutely thrown into the meat grinder. Here comes the entire team of Rogue. Broken Blade running for the hills. He's going to try to turn and burn with the Dominus, but it's too little too late. Here comes the Lux ultimate, but not even the tip going to connect. Hansama going to finish the job on his own.
Yeah, you can see the amount of globals in this game. The Sen ult, the TF ult, the TP's coming in, the mid-prio from Caitlyn Lux just moving into the bot side to make sure that these plays go in favor of Rogue. So essentially a 5v5 in bot side, but Rogue get there first. Rogue win the play. It's a 2 for 1 for Rogue, and they're going to keep control of the game. And that's what happens when you have so much mid-priority. You can always get to the plays first. Odoamne is just running through the towers.
Leon trying to back off. Curse of the Black Mist, just to deny a little bit. But Odoamne, as you said, is so strong. Stride Breaker plus the Sterix Gauge just makes him nigh unkillable.
Yeah, and although Broken Blade is really far behind on this Renekton, which is not what you want going into the mid to late game stages of the game, Abbedagge did pick up 2 kills in these fights. So he's 4-3-1, he has a shutdown on his head, he's 40 CS up on Larssen, and he's the same level. So he's recovered so much after that kind of transition from early to mid game where he was struggling, sitting on 2 items. He's building towards the Infinity Edge now, but he will be super, super strong and could be a win condition for Schalke on these side lanes because Odoamne is a really big force to deal with. And I think if they can start playing 2-man into this Odoamne, then maybe they can shut him down and get him out of this game, because if he can group, I think that Schalke just can't deal with him.
And Caedrel, we praise the flexibility of Rogue this game. Using their bot lane advantage to free up their Lux, to roam mid, to bail Larssen out, to eventually bail top out. It was a clean game. Honestly, it was incredibly well played across the map for Rogue to get themselves out of an early disadvantage. But now Schalke, you heard it from the analyst desk, they've been a one-note team. They played one style for most of the split that has worked out for them. It has often been scrappy. It has been team fighting. That's what they used to beat Rogue last time. But this composition is very different. This is not an easy composition to play when you fall behind. So if Schalke want to show us that they are ready to contest the top of the table, a win here in a deficit with a composition that absolutely has no business winning the game at this point would be massive for the team.
Yeah, especially against a team like Rogue. I mean, especially going towards the end of the split in the playoffs race, winning against Rogue is so important. As we saw Larssen use the TF ultimate there, he was kind of scared to push out the top wave, so he just wanted to use it just in case Abbedagge was hiding in one of the bushes. He had no vision towards the top side of the map, but that ultimate kind of shows Abbedagge, and now Abbedagge shows mid. Now Larssen can push out top, and then we'll probably see him base or move towards mid bot side, because Drake's in 15 seconds. He has no ult, he has no TP. Schalke have full control. Limit's going around the back, they have flashes.
Chem tank activated, trying to isolate Trymbi. Trymbi incredibly squishy. They're just going to one-shot him before the ultimate can even come out, and Abbedagge now jumping through, trying to focus. They've got a creep wave here. They can just start to push through into the base. Meanwhile, Larssen on the top side, important to note, is making the split map play.
Yeah, there's the play on different lanes here. Drakos 4-man mid versus Larssen in top side. Trimby's flash just came up, but I think Rogue can clear this wave. Schalke probably can't overcommit. I think they need to turn towards the dragon. Odoamne is here. Their wave is coming, but I think Rogue have too much wave clear with this Caitlyn Graves. Larssen does get the top tier 2. He's going to keep going, I think, Drakos. They can go for this Drake, but they don't have any TPs to stop Larssen.
This is just a random Drake. This is just a mountain. It's your second Drake. Caedrel, is this... I don't want to call it... tell me what this is, Caedrel. I don't want to make any strong statements. What just happened here?
I think that they knew that they were going to be too late to that top tier 3 because Rogue was chasing them down and stopping their bases. Abbedagge does finally base, and they don't get the top in it, but that's 2 towers for the Dragon for Schalke. Yes, they did get the mid tier 2 as well, so it's more of a net gold positive for Rogue because you can push in these side lanes so deep now, and this mid tier 1 will collapse if the side lane towers have fallen. But Abbedagge is on his way down. Maybe Schalke want to contest this. But you have to question some of the decision making there, just overcommitting with too many members onto that mid tier 3 when Rogue have so much wave clear on the Graves and the Caitlyn. They do end up losing 2 towers on top.
And you saw how much damage Tristana did do, how much damage Abbedagge did when he was left alone on that tower, but it was not enough to break that tower, and that means Rogue are still favored here. They've got almost a 2k gold advantage. They're continuing to scale up 2, 2.5, almost 3 items across the board, and the person you need to keep your eye on in these fights is usually the TF to kick it off, but I also want to shift attention to Odoamne again. He is working on what it looks to be a Randwins against triple AD threat from the side of Schalke No Fear. Nidalee damage, not sustained AP damage. Tank Gragas bot lane, not sustained AP damage. Odoamne, even in the face of the healing reduction that has been picked up by the side of Schalke No Fear, may be unkillable in the fights to come.
Yeah, I think both these team fights are going to progress in a way where you keep your eyes on Odoamne and Hans, who has also got a 270 CS at 27 minutes. And on the other side for Schalke, it's Abbedagge with 280 CS with the 3 items, with the QSS as well. But like I said, Odoamne just picked up that random wins, sitting on 3 items against this full AD comp. He's going to be such a hard person to deal with in fights, especially he's 2 levels up on Broken Blade. He's so strong. And I think that he can always win out on the side lane, but we'll have to see how the team fights progress. Can Abbedagge clutch it for his team? Neon's also quite strong as well, but my eyes are definitely on Abbedagge.
A lot of pressure on the Tristana, but certainly has a lot of tools. So much range, as well as both 2 disengaged tools between the rocket jump. But Limit's the one who has to be careful for now, is Roger pushing in to break his mid lane tower. Important to note, there's not a lot of wave clear here whatsoever for the side of Schalke No Fear. Tristana mid does not have a lot of access to the wave, even with that extra range. So Rogue just utilizing the advantages present in their composition to take down that tier 1.
Yeah, Schalke have little to no wave clear apart from really the Gragas in the center essentially, but I think that the key thing here is Larssen has the rapid fire, so he locks in a stun card, walks up towards the tier 1 tower, and then is ready to throw the card to stun anyone that tries to clear the wave anyway. So they do end up picking that tier 1. It was kind of expected by looking at the side lanes for Schalke, which have kind of fall apart. Rogue have 5 towers in the game now, they have full Baron control, and they have the TP on Odoamne. So winning side lane, full control top side. How do Rogue want to execute this Baron? They don't really have the best Baron start, they don't have the best Baron finish either, but they do have the Caitlyn traps to stop Schalke from contesting the river if they ever do decide to start it. But Schalke will start to pushing these mid waves, and every time Schalke wants to regain control of this mid wave, Odoamne keeps coming towards mid to stop them from doing it.
Just constantly threatening on the flank. Remember, he can ult at any moment just to get that massive move speed steroid.
Yeah, and that's how side lanes work. If you have prio in the sides, you can always move mid, and even if they have mid prio, they're going to have to give it up if the sides do collapse onto you. So Schalke respecting Odoamne there, who's basically dictating how the game plays out for Rogue on this side lane, because Abbedagge does beat Larssen. Larssen's just catching waves and being a utility bot for his team with this build, but Odoamne is the key player for Rogue to unlock the mid lane prio, to unlock the Baron.
Now, the fact that he's winning this lane so commandingly is such a big deal for the team. And doubled down by the fact that a TF could appear at any moment. A good game from Larssen, and kind of a reminder as to why we saw this TF banned so much. The flexibility that it brings to the table is very, very difficult to match. They now see Abbedagge starting the red. They know they have free access on the bottom lane. Odoamne can play as aggressive as he wants.
Yeah, you might question these TF ults, but that's the 3rd time Larssen uses ult just to get information, because that means if they get information on where everyone is, Rogue can push out mid, they can push out top, and they can catch sides effectively, because you saw Rogue's bot lane get caught out once by Limit already. They need the information so they can push these waves, because if they don't have this information, it's so hard for them to retake the vision. So they use it for the vision, then they get the vision, then they push out the lanes, and they rinse and repeat.
And it's good that you bring up picks, because while Rogue is certainly the team we would expect to be picking people off in the side lane with options like the TF gold card, the ult, but here comes Inspired. He's just trying to one-shot Neon. That's big damage, but now Larssen with the follow-up. Are you kidding me? That's still connected. That's 1. Looking for 2. That's the double. Woo! Graves looking a little strong this patch.
He did so much damage. The Dominic's item is doing so much onto the Senna, who's basically paper for him. Uses the Gale Force, gets the ult. Neon goes down. 30-second death time is for Schalke. They can start up this Baron, but look at Schalke. They're pushing in these side lanes. They have the TPs. I don't think they can contest. Odoamne is already here. I think that's Baron, Drakos.
A Miracle Steal from Gilius, maybe the only option, but he's not even going to try for it, and this is disastrous. You brought up the Caitlyn traps earlier. Now we get to see them in their best element, pushing down that mid lane, threatening this siege. This is going to be such a difficult game.
They're hunting down Abbedagge. He gets hit by the ultimate. They know where he is. Oh, he jumps and TPs. Can he get it off in time? Larssen has the rapid fire.
Running forward. Gold card. Oh.
Just in time.
Houdini himself escaping that one, but not so happy to escape, because he is definitely not going home to prizes or bouquets or flowers. He's going home to a Rogue with a Baron-empowered minion wave and a Caitlyn with 3.5 items pushing down. That's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, Schalke are really going to struggle now. Rogue have so many utility ways. They have the TF ult, Odoamne's TP. They have such a good 1-4 or 1-3-1 if they want to. And when they start sieging these towers, like you said, the Caitlyn traps are going to be huge on these tier 3s. Schalke have some kind of control in the river, though. Maybe they can poke them out. The Dragons in 2 seconds. It's all about this mid wave. If Schalke can contest this, maybe they have a chance of fighting the Drake. They're looking for engage.
Limit going to kick things off immediately. The fight getting started. One-shotting the AD carry. Rather than coming in.
No, look at Odoamne.
Oh! Oh! Okay, I was warned about this. I didn't know precisely, but at 35 minutes, sorry to take you out.
We were so hyped about that fight. That was Odoamne's TPing in. I was so sure it's going to go bad.
On the next episode of Dragon Ball Z, no, just kidding. There's a pause at 35 minutes. We'll keep you guys up to date as to what happened. I believe a computer just crashed.
Hopefully it wasn't Odoamne. He's TPing into 5 people.
Yeah, it's a bit... We're going to figure out what's going to happen here, but we'll do our best to keep you guys entertained and updated during the pause. Of course, it felt to me after that Baron that this game might as well have been done.
Yep.
And that could have been our point as to how clean Rogue can close this out. Instead, we ended in the middle of a team fight. So Schalke might be turning it around right now.
Yeah, I mean, we knew Schalke had to engage that mid-wave because if they dropped that mid-wave, Rogue would have full control of the map, the Drake, everything. So they had to pull the trigger. They found it. They found the engage. They killed Inspired. But man, that team fight's on a knife edge. I think Odoamne TPing into 4 or 5 people. I think Schalke might be able to win that fight.
The one shot onto Inspired to start is really good because Smokescreen is such a nightmare to deal with. Now, Odoamne, again, I said it before and I might say it, might be unkillable.
Yeah.
He has a good amount of armor. Randuin's just, in general, very strong against triple AD threat. And Gragas, again, building full tank, not an AP damage threat. So there is some room for him to just clean up a fight. But maybe Abbedagge, I mean, I couldn't see, again, at that final moment. Maybe he still has the ultimate.
Yeah,
he can turn the fight.
I can see here, I think Broken Blade's kind of chunked out. Abbedagge is a bit split. Gilius on the side. I think this could be a chance for Odoamne to get a pentakill. Looking at it, but we'll have to see how it progresses.
Wow, really great cliffhanger to keep the people keep going.
This is what we need to see from Schalke. You know, they're in the playoffs race. SK and Mad Lions are sitting around 3rd place. They're in a duel with XL now, essentially, and SK, all these misfits is kind of on the rise a little bit, but this win would be huge for them.
Yeah, let's take a chance to just explain where everything's at, because it is a neck-and-neck standing. Now, obviously, for teams like Misfits, they did get a win today, but they're still towards the bottom end. Astralis, 3-8, Team Vitality, these guys are at the bottom. Maybe they can make a miracle run. But everyone else, Excel, Schalke, Fnatic, SK, Mad Lions, these are all teams that are fighting for those spots. Rogue and G2 feel pretty secure in playoffs. I think that's pretty much expected for everybody. But we're going to have to see what Schalke can do to keep themselves in the race. Now, at 35 minutes and 18 seconds into the game, Schalke reported a hardware issue to league officials. They are currently working on solving the issue. And while we wait, we're going to head over to the analyst desk.
Wouldn't be a Caedrel Drakos cast without a pause.
Let's get on stage.
I think game 4s are just cursed.
Yeah.
It feels that way. Thank you so much for passing it over. And what a strange game so far.
It's been good.
It has been very tense. It's been very interesting, and I think a lot of that has to do with the team compositions, right? Now, Vedius, we have been debating the champions, the impact, and in particular, the lack of engage. But what else do you see from these two comps?
Well, that. So when I looked at these drafts, to me, what I noticed was Rogue came in with a very clear plan, which is we're going to ban out Azir with the intent of prioritizing Twisted Fate again. We heard the casters talking about it. We haven't seen Twisted Fate for a while, but this champion is something that Larssen is very comfortable with. It was something that was consistently taken away from him at the beginning of the split. And the whole game plan seemed to be, we're going to get a strong mid-jungle duo. We're going to have a strong 2v2 bot with the Caitlyn priority. Regardless of what they put with the Caitlyn, it was always going to have a strong 2v2 lane. And then they could look to try and play through bot lane. The interesting answer that Schalke came up with was the Tristana. Now, this isn't anything particularly new. I think the Tristana is a very solid answer. But what we've seen is a very back and forth, tense early game because of how well Abbedagge has made it difficult for the Larssen to actually roam.
I mean, Drakos and Caedrel really highlighted the strengths of that Tristana pick. The moment Twisted Fate leaves the lane, you lose plates, you lose farm, the wave just keeps getting pushed in over and over. Now, Mac, what do you think are some of the win conditions for this compositions? Because we've seen it kind of not stall out, but be very difficult for either team to grab hold of the game.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the comps are, I mean, Rogue's comp is very, very heavily based on scaling, right? Normally when you have a Caitlyn and a Lux, you want to get to that like sweet spot 3 item with Caitlyn, and then your Lux eventually takes over because she has so much shielding. As the cast correctly highlighted, there's a kind of, it's mostly physical damage on the side of Schalke. So the Aatrox actually here is serving as a tank, even though he's not that tanky until later on. But when he hits 3 items, he's going to get his armor item, and then he's going to have Sterax, and then he's going to have Lux shields on top, and he's going to be like completely unkillable. So that's kind of Rogue's plan going into this, with the Aatrox serving as a tank, and he's their front line. They have CC, they have Burst from the Graves, they have even more CC and shields from the Lux, and then Caitlyn is just there free hitting. That's the plan, and it sounds great. If you don't get one shot by Gragas Tristana all the time. And it's amazing how good a job Limit is doing at finding these engages with the Gragas. We talked about the Rel coming into this because this is a pick that Schalke had gone back to like over and over and over again. And Rogue saw that, banned it out, and they found the Gragas, and Limit's really showing up. And all of the fights are like, it's usually looking good for Rogue. They're kind of in control, they have a good position on the map, and then suddenly like Limit and Abbedagge just one-shot someone. And that's Schalke's comp.
I mean, we were talking about that in the pre-game. Schalke needs to find a way to like pop open the game. Now, it's not Gilius necessarily on the Nidalee, it is Limit on that Gragas. If we take the players out of consideration, just the champions and the compositions, do you favor one particular comp?
Normally, like, it depends so much on execution, and that's really silly to say. Obviously, all games depend on execution, but I think that Schalke's comp is really hard to execute. But on paper, it's a really good comp because you have early priority, you have the Nidalee that wants to get up into the Graves face, you have the Nidalee Renekton combo, you have all this burst from Tristana, TF can never leave his tower, right? Like, so you have mid priority, you have top priority, you have winning jungle, your bot lane can kind of survive, like they have some sustain with Senna Gragas, and then you can maybe snowball the game, right? If you mess up, the game starts to look very, very hard, and if Aatrox gets to his 3 items, it looks awful. So I think, like, with perfect execution, Schalke's draft looks great, but it's a really hard composition to execute.
I'm going to turn to Verius now, and let's talk about the early game. What was the execution like? You know, would you favor anyone? It looked even to me.
Well, I think that Mac offered a really interesting perspective because it was one that I didn't really think of. When I looked at these two comps, one of the things that concerned me for both was that there is no reliable, easy way to start a fight, right? And I think the ways in which you gained advantages was by having the Twisted Fate roam and actually find picks. But the way in which Schalke mitigated a lot of those advantages was actually just by taking a lot of tower plates, finding the odd pick here and there, and actually staying relevant in the gold lead while actually not losing too much, especially on the bot side of the map. So I think that I was a little concerned for Rogue, especially like I still have this debate about Caitlyn because I'm not entirely sure what state she's in right now. She still has that 2-item trough where she doesn't really do, but she's great in lane. She then maybe doesn't feel that strong.
And then the spike.
But like, depending on which pro you speak to, they'll give you a different perspective on whether that still is relevant for Caitlyn. But that was kind of where my concern came from Rogue. What I did like, especially that the casters were highlighting, was how Rogue did a great job of attacking the side lanes once the towers started falling down. We saw a great pick from Inspired and Larssen in the bot lane. We saw a great pick in mid lane on the Tristana as well. And I feel like that's where we've been seeing Rogue kind of outshine Schalke in that they've been getting really good picks with the use of their globals, but at the same time, Schalke, as Mac highlighted, have been using their burst with the Gragas and Tristana to actually get the picks in return and kind of keep the game relevant.
I mean, it's very exciting, and because of those picks, just before the pause, Schalke were able to pick up the Baron. Now, I'm hearing that we are nearly ready to go, so let's pick this energy back up. What do you make of the next few minutes, and who will win this game?
Well, I have a question. Where are we picking back up from? Do you know? Because
I think
the last thing we saw was a huge team fight in mid where I believe it was Inspired, just got one shot.
I'm going to have to come back to you in just a moment or two because we are ready. We do want to get back to the game.
Let's do it.
We do have a post-game plan, so I'll be able to get Verius' final thoughts. At approximately 35 minutes, Schalke 04 reported a hardware-related issue to League officials. League officials cannot confirm the issue reported by Schalke. Therefore, we will resume the game at 32 minutes, which is where we left off on the broadcast.
We're back.
We're back. I don't know where we're coming in, but we're dropping hot, folks. So get ready. 32 minutes exactly. Production that doesn't tell me what's happening on the screen. I appreciate all the people.
Odoamne TPing in. It's about to be a fist fight.
If you've ever dropped school or equivalent in any battle royale,
it's about to happen now.
It's happening. It's 6 houses. It's school. No one has their guns. It's just an absolute fist fight here.
I think everyone's got guns, Drakos. Everyone's so fed. And Inspire's already dead.
And again, no Chrono Break. We are resuming the game from where we are. So it is time to go. Instantly, the fight is now kicking off. Odoamne in the backside, but he's being focused down by 4 members. But he's still, the healing is incredible. The Luxo coming up the backside, and we predicted it. I'll say it again. Odoamne is unkillable, and he is shredding the entire team. Abbedagge, the point that was supposed to carry, falls in the team fight, and Rogue absolutely shred Schalke.
Odoamne is showing up in these fights. TP's into 4 peoples, one-shots the AD carry, kills the Nidalee and chases down Broken Blade, who he essentially, Broken Blade was his replacement on Schalke, takes him down, and he's showing up this game.
I love it, Caedrel. Hot drop me into every team fight.
I love
ready.
dropping school, Drakos. This is epic. Limits getting chased by Trymbi. Supportal combat while Rogue play on 2 lanes here. You can see members pushing in mid, looking for the inhib. The top inhib's already exposed. Still 20 seconds on Abbedagge, 10 seconds on Gilius. They might just want to back off here and go for the Drake as Limit decides to TP out of supportal combat. Boo. I want to see that 1v1.
And again, remember, the game got paused at 35 minutes. So we've got 2 more minutes at least. Rogue are not going to end the game here. Sorry to explain that, but that was pretty clear to me. I hope it was clear to you guys at home as well. So Schalke have a bit of time. They're holding on. We're going to see what kind of state the map is in a few minutes. But again, a second armor item now coming in for Odoamne on top of more AD. I think it only gets harder now for Schalke.
Yeah, Mac handled it so well in the pause. Like this, when his Aatrox gets items, when he gets armor items against this comp of Schalke, he's unkillable. He's got the random wins, he's got the death stance now as well, so he will take even reduced physical damage against this Schalke lineup, where I think Abbedagge and Neon are the only damage dealers, because Gilius, yes, he is the only AP, but I think he's fallen off to the point where he doesn't do enough damage in fights to actually merit being the only AP, because I think he just gets one shot when he walks up or jumps in. So Rogue do have the top inhib exposed, but it looks like they're going 5-man towards his bot tier 2. They still have the Baron buff, they still have the Caitlyn, so their siege is really, really strong, especially with this TF rapid fire.
Honestly, Rogue making it look effortless right now as they collapse to the bottom lane. If they start breaking inhibitors that easily, then it's just going to feel like a done deal for Schalke. Maybe, though, a Miracle engaged from Limit. He does have the Ghost right now, not a flash, but maybe can get a creative play here with the Cask.
Yeah, look at Larssen on these sieges. He just locks in a gold card and just gets ready to. Broken Blade, no Sterak's, gets chunked out. Abbedagge does block the Caedrel ult, but the wave's coming in soon. The cannon's hitting onto this tier 3. This is the only tier 3 Schalke have left in the game. Odoamne is going in again.
Going in, Gilius is just about to get one shot here. The only AP damage threat, if he goes down, Odoamne is actually just unkillable. They're holding a Neon.
What?
That damage is far too high. And Larssen going to go in the follow-up on the wild cards. Schalke are just getting picked to pieces.
Rogue have so much range with the Grave Smokescreen, the Caitlyn headshots, the Lux bindings, the TF stun cards with rapid fire. I think Schalke are going to lose 3 inhibitors here. Do they want to fight the third one? No, it already gets taken down. So Schalke are looking at 3 inhib deficit, and Rogue have such a good sort of tower hitting comp, siege comp. They have so much utility. Look at Larssen with the gold card, stepping up, waiting for Schalke to walk even in range of him, and he'll stun them, and they'll essentially get one popped. Bindings connecting, traps are on the lines, they have rapid fires, Drakos.
Caedrel.
They need.
I think there's nothing left for Schalke. There's nothing for them to do. It's the only game state we've seen where it's illegal to defend your own Nexus. You got to get back in the fountain, boys.
Speed, that was one headshot. Gilius gets engaged on. Doesn't have the flash. The stun card again.
Abbedagge gonna be in trouble, but instantly Broken Blade tries to body block. That's the play to kick things off. Trymbi in trouble, but it's just the support. Meanwhile, Abbedagge rocket jumping out to safety, looking for the reset, bouncing, jumping. But Hansama coming in, big damage dropping, and Hansama's going to live. In the meantime, Schalke trying to hold on, but Limit gets picked off by the wild cards. Gold card coming up. Rapid fire cannon just in time. Gilius now in trouble. Smoke screen to slow him down, but that's just gonna do it. Gilius forced back into the base. Neon forced back into the base. Minions coming in, and Rogue have done it. Rogue will turn things around in the second half and take down Schalke No Fear.
Yeah, so many minions here. Larssen in hand, so much range. Schalke can't connect on them. They win the fight and they win the game.
And the last time we saw these two teams go toe-to-toe, Rogue had a very volatile composition. They were not able to make it work. Schalke collapsed on them and destroyed them. But this time around, the second half of the split, Rogue have cleaned it up a bit. They've cleaned up the drafts and they've cleaned up the play, because this was an incredibly dominant performance from Rogue.
Yeah, insanely dominant performance. They didn't even pick these winning early game lanes. Apart from the Caitlyn Lux, they were playing to scale, playing for globals, which we saw in the early stages. TF Pantheon week 1, I think it was. Now they're running the TF back, playing for Odoamne in the side lane, using their bot to help their mid. And you have to question Schalke's decision-making in these drafts. You know, the first few weeks, their drafts looked a lot cleaner, a lot more team fight. But in the most recent weeks, they're drafting these hard-to-execute compositions, similar to G2, similar to Rogue last week as well, where it's like snowball early game or just fall apart as the team fights progress.
And again, compared to the composition that they put together against SK, this felt much stronger. You heard Max say, on paper, perfect execution, this comp looks, God, almost impossible to stop. But at the end of the day, 1 or 2 mistakes, Gilius overstepping, Larssen finding picks in the side lane, even when he was behind in the 1v1 mid lane, amounts and starts to stack up, and Rogue are able to take the game. That said, you have to decide in a game that was very much about team play, who was your key player of the game. At LEC on Twitter, Odo, Inspired, and Larssen are your options.
Will Odoamne get another POG? Maybe he can get it.
It's
Or maybe people will just vote away from it for memes. You never know.
I'm not going to encourage people either way. And as we're being played off dramatically, Ashley's going to be back after the break to check in with Larssen before Fnatic and Astralis close out the day.
Hope Odoamne gets another celebration happen. All the confetti.
They are out there, waiting to be discovered. Some of them are big, and some of them are small. But that's the thing with ideas. They don't just come to you. To find them, you have to move. Kia, movement that inspires.
welcome back from the break, and I'm joined by Larssen. Larssen, congratulations on the victory. And when I was actually preparing this interview, I was going to ask, does it ever get boring to play Azir? But today it actually ended up you're playing Twisted Fate. So can you tell me about more about this pick, and especially how it played into the mid-jungle priority?
Thank you for congratulating us on the win, first of all. And also about Azir, it definitely gets very boring. I watched my stats, and my by far most played is Azir, I think. And I'm really like, every time I look at any champ select, I'm really sad because I don't want to play it because it's so boring. So I'm very happy our coach Freddy banned it from me today, so I didn't need to pick it. And yeah, I mean, Twisted Fate and those like proactive champs are way more fun, I think.
And Rogue also made a very interesting diversion today, because we saw not only Caitlyn, but paired up with Lux today, with Caitlyn getting buffed in patch 11.4. People maybe expected more change in the draft priority, especially in the bot lane, but Rogue actually turned out to be the first team to pick Caitlyn. Can you tell me more about the Caitlyn Lux pick and how they played into Rogue's competition?
I mean, Caitlyn got quite a nice buff, right? And Caitlyn Lux is just a very strong lane and they scale well. And with TF and Caitlyn, we have so long range and looks, so it's kind of hard for enemy to play, I think. But the game was not that easy anyway, because Gilius hit a long range nearly spear on me in mid lane, which made my lane very hard, because I lost flash and like a lot of plates, and then I lost my tower, but yeah.
It seems that the mid lane meta hasn't diverged too much ever since last year Worlds. We still see a lot of mages like Azir that you just mentioned, as well as Orianna or Syndra, or maybe Lucian to counter there, or sometimes even Tristana mid that you played against today. Are you happy with the current state of the meta, especially seeing a lot of stay in the mid lane, getting a lane priority, mid mages being played in mid lane?
The meta is kind of how it's been the most years, like a lot of mages. That's kind of how the pro play meta is, and it's likely to stay for a while, I think. I would love to play some more melees. Like I remember 2019 Summer Split meta, it was like Akali, Aurelia, Sylas. Those champs are really skilled and really fun, so it'd be nice if they could come back a bit. But I'm good at mages as well, so I don't mind. I'm happy to play anything. That's good.
Ah, that's interesting. And everyone was really hyping up patch 11.4 that it was going to impact how the jungle is played, and we're going to see more ganking jungles, and also it's going to impact how the top lane and mid lane is being played. But for now, in the LEC, we have seen the drafts to be very similar to the previous weeks, and many players in different teams have mentioned that it takes a while for players to discover the new meta. And how does that process actually work out for the teams? Because scrimming, you probably have to scrim against different teams and maybe experiment in solo queue. How is the process?
It's definitely very important to adapt to new patches really fast, right? I think that's what we try to do all the time right now, because last summer we were quite bad at adapting in playoffs, and Fnatic stomped us 3-0. So from then we kind of learned it's really important to adapt very fast, which is what we do now, I think. I mean, we first picked Kate, it got buffed, and we always try to figure out a new patch really fast. But I don't think the jungle changes were that big nerfs to jungle. I mean, jungle is still really, really broken, like by far the most broken role in the game. It's just that junglers like to cry a lot and say their role is useless. So when they get nerfed, they were just crying. Like mid laners, the Canos is worth 10 less gold than other lanes, but there's no mid laners crying, you know? It's just junglers who are like crybabies, kind of. But it's still a broken role, yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for the insights about the current jungle and the game state in general. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the victory once again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And after the break, we'll be joined by Trevor for some post-match analysis. Thank you so much.
Just kidding. There is no break. Welcome back to the analyst desk, where we are joined by Mac. Rogue keep their spot in first place after getting revenge on Schalke 04, and it was a little bit of an anticlimactic end. The game was building up. It was incredibly tense. The pause happened at a crucial team fight, which we will break down later in the segment. But can you summarize what we were discussing? Summarize? short.
Yeah.
About picks and
I'm
bans.
good at that.
And comps during the pause.
So, as Max so eloquently put it during the pause, Rogue, scale. Schalke, difficult to execute, need to snowball. And that's what needed to happen. And I think that in the early game, both teams actually played quite well. But it didn't really break open for a while. Okay. And I think that both teams did a good job, in my opinion, of like trying to play towards their win condition without being able to successfully build a big enough lead with which they could snowball off of.
We've got a couple of replays that I'd like to start queuing Mac and get his input on. Let's pull the first one up. It's a couple of picks that Rogue are able to secure. And if memory serves correctly, this is a little bit later into the game. You can see level 11, level 10. And Mac, when we were preparing for the segment, you were talking a little bit about how the game could be blown open between 15 and 18 minutes.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the segment, like the first Herald and the second Herald actually were really pivotal in this game. And this one is kind of leading up to the second Herald because this blew the whole game open. I think in response to that kill on top lane that we just saw, Schalke went into bot, like we're seeing now. And it ended up being like really, really messy and really, really back and forth. But basically, Rogue ended up getting the second Herald off of that whole sequence, and that second Herald really needs to be Schalke's in this game, because then they can start to really blow the game open. And on both Heralds, there were like, on the first one, they went too deep, and there was this fumble, and there was this kind of messy team fight. And then on the second one, there was a pick on mid lane, which ended up in this huge fight, and Rogue ended up taking the Herald. And at that point, that gives Rogue enough breathing room. Like both of those fights, even though they were like close and they kind of didn't look super decisive in either way, both of those fights basically cost Schalke kind of 2 minutes maybe of snowballing time, and that's what allows Rogue's composition to hit critical mass, right? Which is what ended up happening, right? Aatrox gets like his armor item, and when he gets his armor item, the game's just impossible for them to play because Aatrox just goes and one-shots everyone. Also, you have Caitlyn and TF who have 10,000 range.
It definitely worked out that way. I think you're talking about the single damage profile from the Schalke side as well. Let's quickly move on to the second replay. We've only got about 3 minutes left. Yep. So, Vedius, take us away.
So, in the next replay, I kind of wanted to get Mac's perspective because one of the things I mentioned in the draft discussion was that there was very little engage. So for both compositions, it was very much about finding picks and catching people out of position. And something that Mac did mention was how Limit did a great job of finding these engages and cutting people off. But in this situation, Mac, what do you do as a team when you lose your support and you have the ability to split push? Do you go for the Drake? Do you try to reset? What do you try to do if you're Schalke?
I think in this situation for Schalke, like, it's fine. Like, what just happened here is actually a win for your composition, right? The enemy team is split pushing, you're playing a comp that wants to engage, you one-shot one guy, and here they ended up staying way too long to take the mid T3, which is not a very useful tower anyway, instead of going and just taking the dragon with like one guy and then resetting and defending this, right? So they end up they only needed to give one. It would be one tower plus one tower like trade for each side, and then you would have a Drake and a kill on top of it, right? So Schalke should actually come out pretty okay in this situation. It's still not great because they're getting outscaled, but this actually just funnels more gold into the Rogue carries and makes the next fight even harder.
Right. And I think what was really interesting about that was because it kind of showcases how this comp can be very difficult to play for Schalke, and while they did do some good things, there were some very small execution errors, which ultimately made the game gradually harder and harder and harder for them to play as the game went longer and longer.
We've only got a little bit of time left. Let's take a look at that team fight that was unfortunately paused on broadcast. Now, we didn't get to see it in its entirety cleanly, so I'll be watching this mostly for the first time with you as well. Vedius, maybe talk us through what you're seeing on screen.
Well, I think that this was once again a really great demonstration of what Limit did throughout this game. Mac already talked about it, and I want to re-emphasize it again. Limit's engages were fantastic, but at this point in the game, I feel like that the composition from Rogue is online. Look at how Odoamne acts as that tank. He life steals everything up, he soaks up all this damage, and then the range of Hans Sama, Larssen, and Trymbi is just too much for Schalke's comp to deal with. So while they did get that initial pick, unfortunately, it did not result in a teamfight win.
It did not. Rogue went on to win the game, and I'm going to ask Mac, when you see another composition from Rogue in a different style, do you think this is experimental? Do you think this is the right pick for the right time? Like, you know, how do you evaluate this as an opponent of Rogue?
I mean, it's hard. I think teams, especially in the regular season, should experiment a lot. I think that's healthy, and I think Larssen actually spoke about that in the interview as well. We had a very similar experience to them last year, where we felt like we didn't adapt enough in the regular season. We didn't experiment enough in the regular season, and then it cost us at playoffs. So maybe this is just an example of that. Maybe they think that Caitlyn is just super broken. Maybe they thought it was fantastic against Schalke style. It's really hard to say. But for preparing against them, it certainly makes things more difficult. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Obviously, Rogue now sitting at the top of the table with G2. I do want to talk about the standings later in PGL with Mac and Vedius. Let's quickly move on to Fnatic Astralis. Before that, your key player of the game is Odoamne. He won with 66% of the votes. I definitely think a little bit helped out by Ender throughout the course of the day. We're closing out with that Fnatic and Astralis matchup. Based on the last time they played, this is going to be a bloodbath.